week 2 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, a preservation challenge here on YouTube. Rules are you make your own rules. So if you want to see my rules, you'll have to watch first week. Sorry. I didn't have the best harvest of butternut squash this year. The squash bugs kind of took over fast, I think because it was so wet. But luckily I had another crop that you'll see in another video that took its place. So I'm going to start off by setting my oven to 400 degrees and get ready for butternut puree. I always like to put foil on my baking sheets because that sticky stuff that comes out while you're cooking the butternut is really hard to get off. I also have to put on gloves because I'm allergic to something in the skin of it, and it turns out a lot of people are. It just makes your hands really dry even after you wash them. This is typically how I roast them. Just cut them in half, scoop out the seeds, and you could definitely save those seeds. Just wash them off, put them on a paper towel, and let them dry out for about a day, and then put it in your seed-saving container of whatever you have. But I had such bad luck with this butternut that I didn't want to save these genetics. I usually roast these for about 20 minutes in the morning. I turn it off, go to the farm, and come back, and it has steamed it even further. It also is really good for cleaning out your oven. It's already steamed all that crap in there, and you can just wipe it out. After it's cool enough to handle, you just take out the flesh. I have this handy dandy squash scooper that my parents got me a while back, but you could use your hands or a spoon or whatever. Just scrape it all out. I use my immersion blender because my blender ain't that great. I usually spend quite a bit of time doing this because I don't want chunks of it in my pumpkin bread. That's usually what I do with this puree, is use it for pumpkin bread because me and the dogs like that with coffee in the morning. Of course, they don't drink the coffee. It's not considered safe to can a puree like this because it's so thick that the heat might not penetrate all the way through. So I freeze it. I usually write on the bags first because this is straight from the refrigerator and it's going to be hard to write on when it's cold. And yeah, it's butternut squash, but I call it butternut. The bags stay a little cleaner on the sealing part if you fold it over first. And then I have this bag opener. I put it on there and then put it on my scale and tare it. And then I'm going to put 15 ounces of the puree in each bag because that is a can of pumpkin puree, and usually recipes call for a can. If you flatten them out, they defrost really fast and they don't take up as much room in the freezer. You can stack them on each other. And here they are frozen. In Texas, we're able to start onions in the fall time, and you'll actually get a bigger harvest if you start them then. But all you can find in the store are sets and not starts. So sets have already gone through one growing season, so the bulbs aren't going to get as big, and you're going to have stems that are really thick. So a lot of times they take a long time to flop, or they don't flop at all. So I had to pull mine. We had so much rain, they were starting to rot in the ground. So I had to get them up and just put them in the freezer. And these are just 2 random boxes we had in the barn, and the dogs, of course, have to check it out first. Thank goodness I was able to figure something out and start my own starts for onions for this fall. The link to that video will be in the description below. If you're planning on storing your onions just in a pantry or something, do not cut the tops off this early. Wait for them to dry out and wait for the roots to dry out too before you chop those. But never fear, if you have this problem, you can just dice them up, put them in the freezer, and they're so easy to just grab and throw in a pan. And then obviously, if you're gonna store your onions, do not peel off the outer layer and do not run it underwater. This is how I usually keep my onions, just because we're in a humid environment and it doesn't make the best for saving onions like that. So I usually put them in the freezer. If I go through all the effort of growing them, fertilizing them, and everything, I'm going to keep them. I would not recommend beating things on top of your glass stove top. It's just probably not good. Mine's already cracked from canning. The outside layers were a little rubbery, so I just left those out. My husband either felt bad for me or wanted to be in on all this onion fun and decided to help me. I knew I'd go through the yellow onions the fastest because that's what I like. So I put it in a resealable bag and put it in the freezer in the house. The rest of them I put in Ziploc bags and put them out in the freezers in the garage. At this point in time, we had a lot of cucumbers coming out of the garden, and last week I made sweet relish, so I decided to make dill relish. You'll notice some of these are Armenian cucumbers. I just chunked these up and put them in my crappy food processor, and you make your nasty relish as chunky or not chunky as you want. I do not like cucumbers or pickles. And then I remove the big chunks and cut them with a knife. These are those Armenian cucumbers that are in the melon family rather than cucumber, but they smell just like a cucumber and they probably taste like a cucumber. But since those are gross, I didn't taste it. My husband did, and he said they tasted the same. A lot of hot climate gardeners will use this as a second succession cucumber. I'm just using a dill pickle seasoning packet for this recipe, so I'm kind of following the relish recipe from the sweet one. So after I chopped it, I put them in a colander to strain them out, and then I had a bowl to collect all the liquids. Then add 7 1/3 cups of water to a pan on the stove on medium high. And then add 3 1/3 cups of vinegar. If you're fancy, make your own seasoning packet, but I'm going to use this one, and this is the time to put it in. I made sure to get that water bath canner started, and you can also heat up your jars in there. The dill pickle recipe asks for a lot more cucumbers, 7 to 8 pounds of cucumbers for this recipe than the sweet one did. So I wasn't prepared for how much it would fill up this bowl. I had to end up splitting the juice between 2 pots. That relish had to simmer away for a while, so it's hot. The water bath is now hot, so my jars needed to be hot. I filled these jars to a 1/2 inch head space and then debubbled a little bit. Even though it's pretty liquidy, I did it anyway. And then I processed these jars for 15 minutes in the water bath canner. Fall is coming, which means hunting season's coming, and we need to make room in the freezers for potential game meat. So I got out 2 chicken carcasses that we needed to get out and make stock out of. The usual culprits go in: some carrots, celery. Editing me here. If you didn't see my video last night, I was a little upset. My entire video just dumped right when I was saving it. So here's me adding spices because all that has disappeared as well. I also forgot onions and garlic, so I added that later, and this is after it's cooked all night long. I ladle it through a strainer into a pitcher because it just makes everything easier. After it's all strained, it's so easy to just put it in the fridge, coagulate that fat, and then scrape it out with a spoon. As my sound effects made it clear, it's very gelatinous and thick, which is good for stocks. I filled these to a 1-inch headspace and then wiped the rim with vinegar because it has a little fat in it still, and processed these for 20 minutes in the pressure canner. If you're new here, you should probably subscribe, but I have a farm and we grow out a lot of pigs, so all our pork is homegrown. This is some ham we had the other night, and I never let that go to waste, so I chunk it up into bigger cubes for casseroles like ham and noodle casserole, or I make small chunks for omelets. And then I'm going to put these in a vacuum seal bag. And recently I made a little advertisement for a company called 𝐷𝑜utair.com. I didn't get paid for it, I just got bags. But these are a little bit thicker than the leading brand, and they also are a lot cheaper than Food Saver. A lot of times when we find bags that have air in it, it's usually because the bag is so thin and we've moved it around while it's frozen and it makes a little hole in it. So it's worth it to get the thicker bags. During tomato season, I get real tired of harvesting tomatoes before the bugs can get them. That's why that one's still a little green. I put some on the counter, I wash some of them, and then I end up freezing everything we're not going to eat right then. I've been doing that ever since I found out you could freeze them and then put them under hot water and peel them off really easy. That makes it really easy to put them in the freezer and try to forget about them. But I had so many bags I needed to make room in the freezer, again, like I said, for hunting season. But I don't want to run the water the entire time I'm peeling them, so I run it with all of them in there, or I think I use one bag, and then peel the skins while it's running, and then when it runs out, I try to peel as many as I can with the residual water in there. Everything ends up super cold though. Then as I chop them, I can just cut out the core in the middle or any bad spots on them. The consistency of them kind of changes a little bit, so I try to keep them as chunky as I can.
2,000 years later.
Last long. By the way, if you don't know what rotel is, you're probably not from Texas, but it's diced tomatoes and green chilies. And one of the specialty mixes they offer is hatch green chili. and I just happen to have those. You'll see that later on in my videos. But I also decided to use the available jalapenos I had in the garden. Rotel goes into almost every casserole you make. Anything Mexican, I substitute it for diced tomatoes or whatever. So I need a lot of jars of it, so I have a lot of tomatoes here.
Oh, gotta take the lens cap off.
Because I spent my entire life peeling tomatoes for this and then chopping everything, I put it in the fridge and worked on it the next day. So I thought, you know, if I'm gonna can this, I better bring it up to temperature and let it cook for a little bit. I put it in my roaster and heated it up and added the rest of the ingredients. A while back, I found a recipe for homemade rotel, and it had a lot more ingredients than just tomatoes and green chilies. So this is the recipe I follow. Some onions. I have no clue why I didn't mince that garlic. To this day, I still don't know. Some black pepper. Tablespoon of salt.
Ground coriander. Come on. Which is just ground up cilantro seeds. Oregano. Oh. Okay. And a little bit more. And then we'll get this stirring on. Oh yeah, there's whole chunks of garlic in here. Well, if you get the chunks of garlic, you win.
JK, I'm just gonna have to remember to look for those because I do not want to bite into a whole bunch of garlic. I filled these to 1/2-inch headspace and processed them in the pressure canner for 10 minutes. Thanks to the pantry challenge in January and February, I did an inventory and noticed I was really low on tomato paste. So I decided to make that, which I didn't have to slip any skins or core or anything. Just throw all those tomatoes in whole. Except for the fresh ones. For some reason, I felt like I needed to cut off some bad spots. We probably wouldn't have been able to taste them. Because most of these tomatoes are frozen, I put it on a fairly high heat and then turned it way down overnight. The last thing you want is burnt paste in your tomato paste. This is what it looked like the next morning. I turned it down a lot after all those tomatoes defrosted and broke down.
And I got my torture device out. A food mill. This is gonna be the next 48 hours of my life.
Luckily, this food mill strains out skins, seeds, cores, anything you don't want in there, and leaves you with sauce.
All this crap that's not gonna come out. That'll probably go to the chickens.
This right here is why there's not many homesteaders out there. Like, you can go to the grocery store and buy one already canned up for probably less than $1. I don't know. After all that food milling, this is what you're left with, the juice and the pulp. So I decided to transfer it to my crock pot because it doesn't have as much surface area on the bottom. I put this on low overnight with the lid off so that evaporation can happen. This is how thick it was when I was done, and it probably dropped by 2/3. I had these little 1/4 pint jars from something, not very many of them, so after I filled those, I filled the 1/2 pint jars to a 1/4 inch headspace. And I almost forgot it, but I added a 1/2 tablespoon of lime juice. And because these cans are so dense, they have to water bath the can for 45 minutes. And about now was when I realized I had bought some ice cube trays to make these into 2 tablespoon servings. What an idiot. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I upload some Wednesdays and all Sundays, and you can keep watching us grow our farm. Have a good one.